Renu Rana Rana.
On this occasion I will convey the history of Nabonidus. Nabonidus was the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, reigning from 556 to 539 BCE. Although his background is uncertain, his mother may have been a priestess of the moon god Sin to whom Nabonidus was unusually devoted. He took the throne after the assassination of the boy king Nabu. It is not clear whether Nabonidus played a role in Nabu-Marduk's death. As king, Nabonidus was maligned by the priests of the chief Babylonian deity Marduk. It is believed this was caused by Nabonidus' overt devotion to Sin and his lack of attention to the city's important New Year's festival. During several years of his kingship, Nabonidus was absent at the Arabian oasis of Tema. During this period his son Belshazzar reigned in his place. The reasons for his long absence remain a matter of controversy, with theories ranging from illness, to madness, to an interest in religious archaeology. Nabonidus returned to the capital in time to lead his armies against the ascendant forces of Persia under Cyrus the Great. While battling Persia, Nabonidus gathered statues of various divinities and their priests from his southern and eastern provinces. Cyrus criticized these policies and returned the artifacts to their previous locations. Nabonidus surrendered to the Persian forces in 539 BCE and was allowed to live out his life in relative freedom. The end of his reign marks the beginning of the Persian Empire and the end of the Babylonian captivity of the Jews. In his own inscriptions, Nabonidus himself makes no claim to known royal origins, although he refers to his otherwise unknown father, Nabu, as wise prince. His mother was connected to the temple of the moon god Sin in Haran, but her ancestry, too, is unknown. The fact that Nabonidus makes repeated references to Ashurbanipal, the last great Neo-Assyrian king, has been cited as evidence that he may have been of Assyrian origin. However, Nabonidus' Persian successor, Cyrus the Great, also referred to Ashurbanipal, so this is hardly conclusive evidence. In any case, it is clear that Nabonidus did not belong to the previous Babylonian ruling dynasty, the Chaldeans, of whom Nebuchadnezzar II was the most famous member. He came to the throne in 556 BCE after the assassination of the youthful king Nabu, the son of Neriglissar. Nabu had succeeded his father when still only a boy, after the latter's 4-year reign. Most likely due to his very young age, Nabu was considered unfit to rule, and was murdered in a conspiracy only 9 months after his inauguration. Nabonidus was consequently chosen as the new king. In most ancient accounts, Nabonidus is depicted as a royal anomaly. He worshipped the moon god Sin beyond all the other gods, and paid special devotion to Sin's temple in Haran, where his mother was a priestess. After successful campaigns in Edom and Cilicia early in his reign, he left Babylon, residing at the rich desert oasis of Tema, in Arabia, returning only after many years. In the meantime, his son Belshazzar ruled from Babylon. Nabonidus is harshly criticized for neglecting the Babylonian chief god, Marduk, and failing to observe the New Year festivals in Babylon. The Nabonidus Chronicle complains that for several years, the king did not come to Babylon for the ceremonies, the image of the god Baal did not go out of the Asagila in procession, the festival of the New Year was omitted. Why Nabonidus stayed in Tema for so long is a matter of uncertainty. He seems to have become interested in the place during his campaign against Edom. Tema was an important oasis, from which lucrative Arabian trade routes could be controlled. However, why Nabonidus stayed for so long, about 10 years, from circa 553 to 543, remains a mystery. One theory is that he was not comfortable in Babylon, which was the center of Marduk worship, where he was expected to perform public rites centering on Marduk's cult during the annual New Year's festival. On the 5th day of the festival, the king was required to submit himself to Marduk in the person of the high priest, who would temporarily strip him of his crown and royal insignia, returning them only after the king prayed for forgiveness and received a hard slap in the face from the priest. Moreover, on the 8th day, the king had to implore all the gods to support and honor Marduk, an act which may have been unacceptable to Nabonidus if he was devoted to sin as supreme. Some have suggested that Tema was attractive to Nabonidus as an archaeological site, where he might find sacred inscriptions or prophecies related to his own spiritual quest. Although Nabonidus' personal preference for sin is clear, scholars are divided regarding the degree of his supposed monotheism. In the Nabonidus cylinder currently displayed at the British Museum, the king refers to the moon god as Sin, king of the gods of heaven, the netherworld, without whom no city or country can be founded. Some claim that it is obvious from his inscriptions that he became almost henotheistic, considering Sin as the national god of Babylon superior even to Marduk. Others, however, insist that Nabonidus, while personally devoted to Sin, respected the other cults in his kingdom, pointing out that he supported construction works to their temples and did not suppress their worship. In this theory, his negative image is due mainly to his long absence from Babylon during his stay in Tema, during which the important, Marduk-centered New Year festival could not take place, a fact which deeply offended the priests of Marduk. These priests, who were highly literate, left records denigrating the king in a fashion similar to the priests of Jerusalem denigrating the Israelite kings who did not properly honor Yahweh in the Hebrew Bible. In fact, there is no sign of the civil unrest during Nabonidus' reign, not even during his absence, and he was able to return to his throne and assert his authority with no apparent problem. However, Nabonidus did remove important cultic statues and their attendants from southern Mesopotamia and brought them to Babylon. A number of contemporary inscriptions indicate that these statues and their priests were brought to Babylon just before the Persian attack that brought Cyrus to power. According to the Nabonidus Chronicle, in the month of Abu, Lugal-Marada and the other gods of the town Merid, Zabada and the other gods of Kish, and the goddess Ninlil and the other gods of Hersagalama visited Babylon. Till the end of the month Ulyalub all the gods of Akkad, those from above and those from below, entered Babylon. The gods of Borsippa, Cutha, and Sippar did not enter. However, Nabonidus' motive in bringing these gods to the capital may not have been to take them hostage, but to ensure that they and their retinue received proper care and protection. In this theory, as Cyrus and his army made their way toward Babylon, Nabonidus gathered the traditional gods of Sumer and Akkad into the capital in order to protect them from being carried away or destroyed by the Persians. Regardless of his motives, however, his actions exposed him to the criticism of his enemies. Thus, when Cyrus entered Babylon, one of his first acts was to demonstrate his piety before Marduk and his support of the local cults, simultaneously denigrating Nabonidus as unfit to rule. He thus returned the images to their places of origin, affirming in the Cyrus cylinder that he did so in obedience to the command of Marduk, while accusing Nabonidus of having offended the gods by bringing them to Babylon. As for the gods of Sumer and Akkad which Nabonidus, to the wrath of the Lord of the gods, brought to Babylon, at the command of the great Lord Marduk I caused them to dwell in peace in their sanctuaries, pleasing dwellings. This is confirmed by the Babylonian chronicles, which indicate that, the gods of Akkad which Nabonidus had made come down to Babylon, were returned to their sacred cities. Various accounts survive describing the fall of Babylon during the reign of Nabonidus. According to the Cyrus cylinder, the people opened their gates for Cyrus and greeted him as a liberator. Herodotus says that Cyrus defeated the Babylonian army outside the city, after which he instituted a siege of city. When this took too long, he diverted the Euphrates, so that his troops could march into the city through the riverbed. Xenophon agrees with this, but he does not mention the battle. Finally, Berossus agrees that Cyrus defeated the Babylonian army, after which Nabonidus fled to nearby Borsippa. There he hid, while Cyrus took Babylon and demolished its outer walls. When he turned toward Borsippa, Nabonidus soon surrendered himself. More helpful is the Nabonidus Chronicle, which is a part of the Babylonian Chronicles, terse, factual accounts of historical events, considered to be reliable, although not very detailed. This text has the following to say on the taking of Babylon by Cyrus. In the month of Tasritu, when Cyrus attacked the army of Akkad in Opis on the Tigris, the inhabitants of Akkad revolted, but he massacred the confused inhabitants. The 15th day, Sippar was seized without battle. Nabonidus fled. The 16th day, Gobryas, the governor of Gutium, and the army of Cyrus entered Babylon without battle. Afterward, Nabonidus was arrested in Babylon when he returned there. Through these data, the following reconstruction may be proposed. When Cyrus attempted to march into southern Mesopotamia, he was met by the Babylonian army near Opis. In the ensuing battle, the Persians were victorious, after which they carried out a massacre. The nearby city of Sippar, wishing to avoid a similar fate, surrendered without a fight. Meanwhile, Nabonidus and his forces retreated to establish a line of defense near the Euphrates. However, Cyrus did not attack the main force of the Babylonian army, but sent a division south along the Tigris to take the capital by surprise. This plan worked. The Persian forces reached Babylon undetected and caught the city unawares, meeting only minor resistance. King Nabonidus, unaware that the city had fallen, was captured while attempting to return to the capital. Nonetheless, it took Cyrus himself almost a month before he proceeded toward the city. As many Babylonian officials, as well as the Babylonian administrative system, stayed in place after the transition of power, it has been surmised that this time was spent on negotiations with representatives from the city. Finally, Cyrus went to Babylon, where he could now have his triumphant entry to the cheers of the people. Accounts by Berossus and others mention that Nabonidus' life was spared, and that he was allowed to retire in Carmania. This conforms with other accounts indicating that Cyrus the Great was known for sparing the lives of the kings whom he had defeated when it served his purposes. Nabonidus' successor, Cyrus, brought an end to the Neo-Babylonian Empire and initiated the ascendancy of Persia. Cyrus' policy of returning religious artifacts and priests to their home sanctuaries soon extended to the empire's western regions as well, as he allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem with their sacred vessels and begin rebuilding the temple. Thus, the end of Nabonidus' reign also marks the beginning of the end of the Babylonian exile of the Jews, as well as the beginning of the Persian Empire. That's the history that I can convey this time. I hope it's useful. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe.